Thanks for joining us this afternoon. I appreciate you taking some time out of your day and joining Leap. I'm going to run through this as efficiently as possible. Hello from Michigan, Erica St. Charles. How are you? Like to see people in the chat. We may even utilize the chat a little bit today. So if you have access to the chat with your fingers, I would appreciate maybe tuning in. So I want to talk about change and what a wonderful topic. Interestingly, our keynote speaker for the meeting of the minds in Vegas is going to talk about change as well. So maybe there'll be some similarities. I don't know. We all know that it's a very important thing. I'm going to focus on the book I read a few months ago, which I really liked. It's called Reset by Dan Heath. Dan Heath is not on the call. Neither is Dan Fisher. Don't confuse Dan Heath with Dan Fisher. Dan Heath's written several books. One called Made to Stick. One called Switch, and this one's called Reset: How to Change What's Not Working. So I want to do everything I can to apply this to rent to own and running a rent to own store. Talking in theory doesn't do most of us any good. Every time I read a book, hey, everybody from St. Louis and Miami and Mount Vernon and Missouri, I love it. I love it on here. But I think I'll read tons of books this year, and every one of them trying to figure out how I can rent more TVs. So that's really kind of what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm going to roll into it. A quote from the good man Charles Darwin. It is not the strongest species that survives. It is the one that is most adaptable to change. And that includes us in the rent-to-own business for certain. Is how adaptable to change are we? There's obviously been lots of companies that have changed a lot in the last 5 or 6 years, but the last 20 years, most common you'd think about is Amazon. Don't forget, Amazon started as an online bookseller. And Netflix started as somebody who mailed DVDs. And there's other minimal changes. There's a good friend of mine has a Chick-fil-A franchise in Cincinnati, and the one he just opened was the first Chick-fil-A that is drive-through only. Big change to not have a big dine-in area where people can go in and dine in and eat their chicken. But every business that wants to thrive is changing, and we are no different in the rent-to-own industry. So here's your first question. I saw this the other day and I wanted to try it. So this is a participation slide. So why don't people change? And I want you to put one of these letters in the chat. Why don't people change? They are too comfortable. They are lazy. They don't see the future is better than the current. They're not curious. Ooh, we got a lot of E's. A, E. Man, it's coming in fast. A, C, E, or E, it's scary. We got a B. I saw lazy. I see A. They're too comfortable. That's that good is the enemy of great. I got A, lots of A's and lots of E's. I don't know. Somebody counting these for me? I think A's and E's get it. A's, they're too comfortable. A or E. Josie Summers said both A and E. It's scary. Maybe that is it. Sam Smith said A, too comfortable. All right. I like it. That was fun. So there are a lot of variety of reasons why. It's probably all the above, right? Why people are afraid of change. And we're going to talk a little about that today. You cannot have growth without change. I'm going to just reflect a little bit on John Maxwell. He's the GOAT of leadership training. He has a book about change. Just to top line it for you, he talks about his 5 C's of change. His 5 C's of change being communication. Obviously, you can't get anything to change or anybody to change without communicating extremely clearly about what you want to have happen and what the future looks like. Nobody's going to change if the future doesn't look better than the present. Commitment is being able to get folks committed to the change, in a variety of ways. There's lots of things we can do. That's part of what we'll talk about with regard to this book. A culture that has a high level of trust, I believe, has a greater ability to get change. The next 2, I think, maybe are the most important, as what I'm talking about today is capability. Do you have the ability, the capability to change? Do you have the knowledge to go to the next level or do the next thing, or you haven't figured it out? And so I think there's a lot of things in our business, in day-to-day rent-to-own stores, that we're not changing because we just don't know how. And then clarity, and that's a real thing. I witness in my organization an awful lot where we'll tell people to do things or or to try things a certain way and they won't do it. And then I hear the response, well, I told him. And just telling them is not clarity. I believe doing things in writing, is, and I'm not talking about write-ups, but I'm just talking about doing things in writing, plans in writing really can help clarity. Also helps clarity is repetition. As leaders, we all have to repeat ourselves over and over and over again. And that's super important if we're trying to get change in any organization. So thanks, John Maxwell. Any of his leadership books are a great read or a great listen on any platform you have. Okay, this is a heavy quote. If you want change, you've either got to change the people or change the people. If you want change, you've either got to change the people or change the people. Might have been the best quote of that book. So I don't know who, maybe show of hands or a nod or a thumbs up if you read the book or listened to the book. I know I talked to a few people that listened to the book on audio. Hopefully you did. It'll make this a little bit better. If you haven't, maybe you'll hear things in here that make you want to pick it up or get it off Amazon or listen to it. So the book we're talking about today is called Reset: How to Change What's Not Working. It's written by a guy named Dan Heath. And I'm going to try like heck to apply it to rent to own. Running a rent-to-own store, managing a rent-to-own store. There's effectively two major points. Oh, there's 13 new messages here I didn't see. Love that. Be the change you want to see in the world, said Brad. Change only occurs when the pain to stay is the same exceeds the pain. Oh, Sam Smith, that's dropping lines right there. Hey, Anthony. All right, so two major elements in this book are these. One, we have to find the leverage point. We have to find, if we want to find change, we have to find the place, the leverage point that we want to exert the energy to make the change. And the second major point of this book is we want to restack the resources to make that change happen. So those are the two major things we're going to be talking about, is finding a leverage point and then restacking the resources. So if we start with finding the leverage point, understand we're going to use, the application we're going to use here is how to rent more. I think it's a topic everybody's comfortable talking about. I'm comfortable talking about because I know it's the most important thing we can do. It fixes so many things in the rental business. So we're going to apply this theory, this reset change theory, to renting more things, renting more TVs and renting more sofas and renting more washers and dryers. Okay. So I want you to look at this real quick. It's somewhat cryptic, but I think it's behind every desk in my organization. These are the activities that have to happen to maximize sales in rent to own in 2025. These are the activities right here. Outbound calls, Facebook marketing, VersaRent texting. We're on VersaRent, not high touch. Customer relationship management activity, quantity and quality, specials that we're pushing out that we have marked, lost customer visits, inbound calls, how we taking those, referral process, business to business marketing, door tags, delivery leads, account manager, sales side, and overall salesmanship. All those things are the things that we know we have to do to be successful and sell like we want. And so what I would tell you very specifically is, as you think about this first section, is which of those parts of the sales activity, because those should all be part of your sales process, are you trying to evaluate? Where's the leverage point in there? In those 12 things, where's the leverage point for your store? Like, what's the place where you have some leverage if you exert? And think about, in the book, it talks about a big boulder with a lever underneath it. If you exert the right pressure on that lever, you can get the ball or start rolling. And I'll show this slide again later. But of those 12 things, where can you exert some pressure to get the ball rolling? But the first part is we got to figure it out. We have to figure out where the right point is, where the right place is to exert the effort. So here's some ways you can do that. First, you got to go see the work. You have to get low to know. Ooh, that's good, right? You got to get low to know. You got to fly low. I talk about altitude a lot with my folks, and I have in a lot of presentations I've done, flying at higher altitudes to see certain things, forest for the trees, flying at lower altitudes to see things more clearly. We have to get in the weeds to see the work, because we have to build the capability, like John Maxwell said. We have to understand exactly what's happening, because it's about the tactics. We have to identify places in the sales process where there's friction. So a couple of little things. First thing, in the book, I don't think you'll be able to see this. In the book, there is an exercise. I got the zoom on or whatever. Anyway, it's a little picture of a bicycle. There was an exercise that Dan talked about people drawing a picture of a bicycle. Drawing a picture of a bicycle. If you all got a little piece of paper out and drew a picture of a bicycle, you draw a picture of a bicycle and you have a knowledge of what a bike looks like. We all have ridden a bike. I haven't ridden it for a while. I don't know that I'd like to. I'm not a bike. So there's a bike trail near where I live in Cincinnati. And people dress in the funny outfits and they go really fast and they almost take out my poor dog Tucker. And I don't know. I struggle with that level of biker. Michael Strong probably is mad I said that. And there's other bikers on here. But anyway, but when people drew the picture of the bike, they drew pictures of a stick figure bike where the chain was connected to both tires. Well, the bike's not going to work that way. Where there was where the pedals weren't connected to anything. Well, the bike's not going to work that way. And the theory in this part of the book was that the knowledge was not at a high enough level to build a bike. It was a high enough level to maybe ride one, high enough level to talk about riding a bike, but not the depth of knowledge was not strong enough to build a bike. And so are you close enough to the work as a manager or regional or owner to really know what it takes to sell in 2025? Have you done lost customer visits? Have you delivered to a customer's house and tried to get a lead that you're asking your delivery guys to? So it's about those tactics. I did an exercise in March with my managers. I gave them each 100 customers. And I said, get these 100 customers back. You have a month. I want you to get these 100 customers back because I really believed they weren't low enough. They had salespeople and the sales process has changed so much that there were things they were saying, I need you to close, we always say, right, we need to close your route, but most salespeople, most account managers want to know, what are you expecting me to do? What do you want me to do on that hard account that won't answer the phone? Same thing with sales. I need you to get more sales. Well, to doing what? Nobody's walking in. And so forcing managers here's 100 customers. I need you to get them back. And it was shocking. And this was back in March. Some got 2 or 3 back in the month. One got 100, and that's the Rendon diva Tamika Wall. But I don't think we were really aware of exactly what it took to acquire a customer in 2025. The effort, the amount of calls, the amount of follow-up, the creativity and offer, the ability to source product. So first point here is those 12 things, right? Or other parts of the sales process and love is you got to go low to know to see the work. Second thing is you got to study the bright spots. You've done it before. Everybody on this call that's running a rent-to-own store, Joseph Barks and Erica St. Charles and Keith Carrico and Rachel Reed, Joe Tubb, you've all done it before. You've had huge days or huge weeks or a big Black Friday. And what we have to do is study those. Autopsies are important, and that's just not an autopsy of a death. We're going to autopsy success. And it may not be the day. It may be the afternoon, and it may be the person. I had a sales rep get 18 sales, last week on a day. Hey, what'd you do? We don't learn anything from averages. We don't learn anything from, I did 50 rentals this month. What I learned is the day I did the most, what happened on that day. The day I did the least, what did we neglect to do? I love the term in the book. It said, untangle the averages. Oh, that's cool. I love that. Untangle the averages and find the outliers and replicate the things you've done before. Let's take Black Friday. It's a great example. Who says you can't have more Black Fridays? Right? Everybody's expecting a big Black Friday. Those of you haven't been in this business very long, we didn't used to do big Black Fridays and rent to own because we thought it was a retail. We didn't do it. I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, Keith Carrico, you probably know how long ago, but it wasn't a thing. And so interestingly, it's a lot of a thing now. But why not have a couple more? Like we do a customer appreciation sale in April. We do another one in October. very much just like the Black Friday sale, but it's not on Black Friday. Why? Because we're trying to replicate what we do so well. So find the bright spots. This 18 on a Thursday is a great story. So Ironton store, my manager Jay Haas, she is a rock star. And there was I don't know, a year and a half ago, maybe she grew 18 customers on a Thursday. That's an outlier. We always learn from the outliers. Jay, what'd you do? Well, we just put a 75-inch TV on sale at $15 a week as a kind of a one-time deal. And she called customers offering them the product. Hey, I got this 75-inch TV on sale for $15 a week. Do you want one? I only have 6. She grew 18 customers that day. Not because she rented 18 $15 TVs, because when we lead with product on a sales call, we get more sales. So the outlier was the 18 sales. We studied it to figure out exactly what happened. And now we can apply that to sales everywhere and all the days. Let's lead with product instead of an offer, because they got to fall in love with the product before they even care about an offer. Okay? Study the bright spots. Target the constraint. Target the constraint. So here's your next question. So let's comment here. Fast food chains. What is your favorite fast food chain? A, McDonald's, B, Wendy's, C, Burger King. It better not be Burger King, because Burger King is terrible. It like makes my oh, look at all the Chick-fil-A fans in the house. A, McDonald's. It's Chick-fil-A and everybody else. Trend is Subway. That's a shock. Chris Kale, F. Okay. A. Who said B? Did anybody ever? Nobody said Arby's, but they have meatballs or something. Subway, Bethany, Subway. All right. No fast food for Don Carter. Don, I appreciate you. B is a close second. Wendy's. I like Wendy's. I absolutely 100% like the Long John Silver's. We got a Long John Silver's. That's crazy. All right. I'm bringing this up because in the book they talk about, there's a story about Chick-fil-A, and they talk about Chick-fil-A in terms of targeting the constraint that they had in their process. So again, we're applying this to renting stuff, right? What is the constraint you have in your process to rent? So Chick-fil-A realized the constraint they had in their process is they weren't taking orders fast enough. They could process the orders, but they weren't getting orders fast enough. So what did they do? They put people out there to take orders. They put people in the line with the things, and they don't have menus, which freaked me out the first time because I didn't know exactly what I wanted, to take the orders so they could speed up the order taking. When they studied the entire process of their drive-through and how it wasn't always fast. It wasn't always fast, or maybe not all the franchisees were fast, but it wasn't always fast. And so they had to study the drive-through. And when they studied the drive-through, they found the constraints were built into taking orders. So they put those people out there. So how does that apply to what you do? What is the constraint? People aren't coming in. That's it, right? People aren't coming in. But he's on here, Chris is on here, Chris Kale Jr., a wise, pioneering rent-to-own dealer. We have a lot of traffic. It's just not the traffic we're used to. We have to manage the traffic better. So figuring out how to manage the traffic we're getting, which is non-traditional walk-in, I want to rent a washer traffic better, is one of the constraints in our rental process that we have to figure out. As I read this, that's what I thought about. Now, here's where I think some of the magic's going to happen is mapping the system. So in the book, he talks about mapping a system, and he talked about a healthcare situation where they were checking patients in and going through the hospital, and he tracked where they were walking and where they were wasting time and all this kind of stuff. My goodness, if we looked at the system that we have in our stores to rent stuff, it is fascinating. If we really evaluate the system we have to rent stuff, what is the process to get approved? Is a blood type required? Because in some of my stores, I believe they want to know what your blood type is. What is the order process? If somebody goes online and they put an order in, do you require a full application that you have to get at that point, and them to scan and send you 2 pay stubs and a copy of their landlord's of their landlord's P&L statement. What is the approval process? Is the approval process the same for every salesperson, or is a manager allowed to approve it differently? Are there issues when we try to find product for customers? How far are you willing to rent? Are there places you don't want to rent? Does everybody know that they can re-rent? Do you have people you don't want to re-rent to? When do they become DNRs? As we think about mapping the entire sales process of rent to own, that system we have for approving people and renting to people, what does it really look like? So a quick story. I had an orientation class about 3 weeks ago. Orientation would be new hires in my company, and they were all account managers. And then I had a delivery rodeo, which of course was all delivery guys. And it was fascinating to hear how much they both disliked the salespeople. And let me tell you, I guess this is a constraint when I map the system. When I map the system, I see that account managers put pressure on salespeople not to rent to certain people. Well, they were a few days late. I don't want you to rent to them. No, they can't have more stuff. Artificially drawing lines of limits that may or may not be in place in stores. So there's issues of salespeople feeling willing and able to rent because of some artificial limitations account managers put on them, maybe figuratively or literally, I don't know. The delivery team, artificial limitations on how much can fit in a block. Limitation. They get frustrated with the salespeople because they don't know how far it is from X to Y, and so we don't put extra deliveries on the book because we don't want to upset the apple cart with that. So this probably is the biggest opportunity from a really identifying where that point is mapping the entire sales system. Again, with the 12 things maybe I had on the presentation earlier, but mapping that entire system and identifying where the opportunity is. There it is again, right? So if you map this entire system, outbound calls, how we're getting them done, how we market on Facebook, what the Versarent or high touch or mass texting is you're doing, CRM activity, what the communication is, how frequent, what the volume is, what the quality is. Or do we have specials we're promoting, like the $15 TV? We learned how important it is to have great product at great prices. Are we able to do the lost customer visits we know we need to do? Because if you're willing to visit a 14 plus customers 14 days past due, you probably should be willing to visit people that have paid you 10 grand. How well do we do outbound calls? Are we doing them at the right time? Are we having success? So on and so forth. So as you map your system, think hard about how you would map these parts of your system. All right. Now we restack the resources. Now, once you have looked at everything that is sales related, those 12 things or your 13 or 14, identify where you want to exert the effort, where you want to take your resources and restack them in a way to leverage some real change. And this is what Dan talked about in his book. We want to try to change the people so we don't have to change the people. I've adapted that quote a little bit. So real quick, James Clear, one of my favorite authors. If you haven't read Atomic Habits, you're missing out. James Clear and I have a lot in common. We both went to Denison University and played baseball, and we're captain of the baseball team. He doesn't realize we have that much in common, but at some point, someday down the road, he will. When he talks about improving habits, he says you need to make the new habit obvious. Leave your sneakers out before you go to bed, make it attractive. Hey, once I get this done, I'm going to treat myself with this, make it easy, make it satisfying. And he also says the resistance is proportional to the size and speed of change. So as we're trying to elicit great change in our organization, maybe it needs to be small changes. Maybe we're just trying to change the lost customers. Maybe we're just trying to change how we work the CRM. Maybe we're just trying to change how we do Facebook. And maybe the speed, you're asking for too much change too fast, but James has a pretty good perspective on these things. Let me tell you. So Dan Heath said it starts with a burst. Getting the change to happen, once you've identified where you want to exert the pressure, you need to start with a burst. All hands on deck. Everybody push it hard. Well, the burst is ours, right? The burst is hours. The burst is extra effort. I have on here, stop checking the box. It's not just doing 25 sales calls. It's a burst. Let's call for three. Everybody make calls for 3 hours and see what happens. For us, HSL was something great. When COVID started and people weren't coming in, and we were pretty good at Facebook, but not awesome, we started Home Shopping Live, which was trying to realistically replicate QVC on our Facebook pages. And the first HSL we did was a burst. It was, you were going to do a product Home Shopping Live at 11, 1, 3, and 5. You're going to do the Tommy Copper mattress by Symbol, and then you're going to do a riding mower, and then you're going to do this TV, and then you're going to do this living room suit, and you're going to do that. You're going to do that on the hour at 11, 1, 3, and 5. And it was fantastic. And we still do a fraction of that now, but that was a way we launched Facebook with a burst. It wasn't like, did you do your post today? Now we expect like 40 posts a week by every store, and we track that. But we absolutely started with a burst just to get people in the habit of doing it and to make an impact, right? It's not going to make an impact if we just do a little bit of it. So when you identify where you want to exert that pressure, you have to be willing to start with a burst. Recycle the waste. When he talked about recycle the waste in the book, and as I tie this, habits hide waste. Old habits, like things we've always done in stores, can be wasteful. Downtime is wasteful. We're sitting around waiting for somebody to walk in. Obviously, that's waste. Unused talent. We got somebody that's great at X, Y, or Z, and we're using them to do J, Q, and R. What is the most wasteful use of hours in a rent-to-own store? Let's open the chat for that real quick. What do we think is the most wasteful use of hours in a rent-to-own store? Can I get a little bit of comment on that? Because I know what it is. Nobody. Everybody's driving and not chatting anymore. Unproductive activities, vague, researching customer histories before on their cell phone. Okay, forgetting TV remotes. All right, Chris. All right, we're getting some specifics. I think we're getting like people's like pet peeves. I think it's driving around. Legitimately all those things, we don't want those things to happen. Mike Strong says cell phones, like being on their phones. Wasted trips in the truck. Joe Tubb, I think you and I are on the same page, not having a checklist. When we drive around to try to get a payment, and when we drive around to make deliveries with 2 men in a truck, that's a lot of hours. To me, that's a lot of hours, and especially from a collection perspective. And I think if you mapped your entire situation, you're going to identify other wasteful spots. But I believe it's that. So why not identify ways to use those hours better? Why not identify ways if you're going out to run an account that's late, or if you're going out to make a delivery in Laurelville, which is 40 minutes from the store, why not hit some lost customers if you're trying to sell? This is a great example on this. If you can see it, this is our lost customers from our Chillicothe store. The picture on the right shows you where all our lost customers from the past year live. And the picture on the left shows an example of the Smithers, whose lifetime rent is paid is $1,242, and when they were inactive and how they became inactive and exactly where they live. So we know exactly who we're visiting. So when we deliver to Laurelville, and we put the lost customer visits on the schedule. So if we're going to drive out there, why not hit a lost customer while we're out there? If we're going to drive out there to visit 214 pluses, why not hit a lost customer? Again, visiting lost customers for us, of that list of 12 things I showed you earlier, has been a game changer. It's not a 42 out of 42 activity, but it's something we can do along with our regular efforts that has generated a lot of sales. Because I think getting in a truck and driving around is a really inefficient thing we do in the rent-to-own business. This is the other thing we do. Let me just tell you this. Logan Jarvis is a baller. Logan Jarvis has been with us about 6 months, and Logan Jarvis is a delivery guy in our Jackson store. This was today. I got these leads today. Logan Jarvis delivered to Joy Marquis, and Logan Jarvis talked to Joy Marquis when he was at a delivery, and she told me they wanted to get a fridge that matches the stove once their stove is paid off. That's a lead. So we don't have to wait for Joy to come back in. This flows right into our CRM, and somebody gets this lead, and we can follow up with we can schedule this response for when the stove's getting almost ready to pay off. Logan Jarvis also gave us the tire size of Joy's car. How much extra time did it take Logan to look at the car in the driveway and just see that they were 275 60 R20s? None. He just typed it in here, and he sent it, and it went back to the store. That's a lead. Again, identifying the places in our activities, our daily activity, our weekly activities, where we can generate more sales. Like, do I want my delivery guys to be sales guys? Yeah. I mean, I want to be great delivery guys first and foremost, but there is time within that delivery process where Logan today at 12:26 p.m. can do a wonderful job of getting two leads today on a delivery. I don't know what he was delivering. Maybe he was delivering that stove. Yes, he did that in the field, Joe Tubb. Absolutely. He did that in the field. It's a game changer. Absolutely. The guys, our delivery teams that do this in the field, it's a game changer. Do less and more. So one of the things Dan talked about in his book of Reset is when we ask people to do more, we also have to subtract. I think we all see this sometime where when we're asking a salesperson, I need you to do 50 sales calls. What can I stop doing? So I think this is a word of caution as you try to get change to happen in your organization and focus efforts and a burst on some form of the sales process that needs changed in 99% of the stores in America. We have to make sure they're then not focusing on something else. Something we talk about scraping the plate. Like if I want you to be as more of a salesperson, then there's activities I need to scrape off your plate so you can be more of a salesperson. There is a trade-off. So just a word of caution, I think, as you start to do this. The next thing Dan talked about was tapping into motivation. We get what we celebrate. I don't think this is new for anybody, right? But we celebrate progress. Maybe we don't need to celebrate perfection. We can celebrate trajectory. But celebrating the things that we expect, celebrating the things that we are starting to get is a wonderful thing. You can't spark a movement if nobody wants to move. And one of the ways we get people to move is we tap the motivation. And we have to keep tapping that motivation as we are making these changes. As we are making these changes in the sales process, whatever that happens to be. And it's not necessarily you're rewarding the results, but you have to celebrate the activities. If we all believe that the activities we seek to change will elicit the results we want, then we have to celebrate the activities and trust that the activities that we believe in will get us the results that we want. Let them drive. Another really important thing, again, in the book, this is not Mike Tissot, this is Dan Heath, is letting folks drive. People will be more receptive to change if they have control, if they can be a part of the change. It's a great term. I adapted it. We've used it before. I read it somewhere else called guarded autonomy. Like you are allowed to do these things within these guardrails. You're allowed to do all of this within these guardrails. I see it in this business a lot with people may throw stones at me, but with regional managers that spend all their day doing extensions and changing rates, and when they don't trust people in the stores to do it. I said it. I said what I said. But giving folks in stores and salespeople the ability to price and make deals and do offers within guardrails of understanding how the business works and within good margin and the things we know we need to do to grow our business will absolutely allow folks to be more bought in to whatever change you want to have. And maybe you need to be willing to give folks a free pass. I had a card, a business card I had created a long time ago. It was called I Made the Call. It really was a get out of jail free card. that you can make a call on anything and you could turn this card in, and this would be great for Mike Strong. You could turn this card in and you get a free pass, and I couldn't be mad. And then I asked my regionals yesterday, I'm like, does anybody still have that card? And one of my regionals still had it in his wallet. I made the call, and he asked if he was still able to use it. I said, of course. So, giving some freedom, some safety, a safety net, if you will, for folks, so they are able and willing to make the call on things, will get them more willing to buy into the change because they're a part of it. It's just not being, sent down from high. It's folks that are going to be living it to get to be a part of exactly what happens. So that summary of this book, again, I highly recommend it, along with many others. But the summary of this book is just that. It's identify. We know we have to change in this business or any other business, or we'll be Netflixed, or we'll be put out of business, or we'll die. We have to find our leverage point. We have to find the leverage point, I think, in the sales process, because I think that's the biggest opportunity for all of us. Find a leverage point. Maybe it's one of those 12 things I listed. Find the leverage point that when you exert your will, your burst, or all that recognition will make the biggest impact in your business. So that is all I have. I'm going to stop my share. I have a little bit. I came in late. What's the book? The book is called Reset by Dan Heath. C. Leroy Steen. So if anybody has any questions, throw them in the chat. I'll be willing to answer them. I won't stay on here forever, but I like to keep this to around 40 minutes, and I was about 5 minutes early. Anything specific? Any questions? Any thoughts? Any hopes? Any dreams? Anybody know exactly where? How do you measure how many sales you get, Kelly? Salesmanship in my eyes is, have we given them all the tools to close? Like, can they close? And it's something we have to see. Can they absolutely close folks? And we see a lot of new people because they don't feel comfortable with products. They don't feel comfortable with offers. They don't feel comfortable, even though we tell them any offer we've ever done with regard to a catalog or a mailer is free game. So the burst idea chat. Yeah, I like it. We've done it in collections. Like, we have like a collections hell week we do too when collections get bad. When you leave with a product on a sales call, should be promotion. Anything is cool. I think it can be anything is cool, Dennis. I'm a Costco guy. I learn a lot from Costco, and Costco always has like things you can find in their store that's cool. And I think it can be any new product. Like on Facebook, a lot of our stores do new product unboxings, but I think it's a product you have a great deal on. Obviously, if you have a product that you're now putting on a promotion, that's a great product. If you have a product that's more, a lot more people are going to like, it'd be a great product. But we just brought in these new Atari handheld systems. We have 6 of them. I think FOMO is a big deal with that. I think that when you let people know I only have a few of these, it's a really big deal. And I think they do that a lot when they make those sales calls. John Cleek, what's the most effective way your people close lost customers in the field? I think when we have a Christmas catalog, it's super helpful. And I would say it's a lead, not a close, John. It's a longer sales process. So in the field, when we're visiting lost customers, they'll take them something, they'll knock on doors. We don't want delivery people always going in our Chillicothe store, our biggest store. Salespeople have a schedule to visit lost customers. So it's got to start with product. It always starts with product, for sure. And whatever the monthly offer is what they have out there in the field. But I know they're always looking at what they have on rent, because there's usually something decent to add on rent. But the goal of a lost customer visit is a lead. And I think that's the other part of the sales process today is a lead is you're looking for a lead, at least a lead, and a lead is good. And if you get a lead, it's a good interaction. How often should you work on a sales training with your team? How often should we be investing in training in our team in general? All the time? I think it doesn't stop, man. Stay curious, because the products are always changing. And I think that what we read what I read online or in these books is always making me think. I'm reading a book now called Me Centric or Me Economy. It's about how people want individual things, and they were talking about Ollie's. So I think we always have to be looking at ways to do it. Do you think having employees on Facebook Live helps sales? Yeah. Yes, employees on Facebook Live is massive for us. 100%. 100% believe that. See you on Facebook Live later, Mike. I'm trying my best to watch. Yeah. We'll get the slides out for sure. B2B, I'm sure we have a version of that, but I'm familiar with the term. Matty Nutter, B2B is business to business. So the McDonald's that a handful of you guys liked, second to Chick-fil-A, like 35 people work there and 10 of them can be your customers. So we visit businesses with things, with specials, with offers in our stores, and probably that's the one thing we don't do often enough. When we're brand new in a market, we do it really well. But visiting businesses where the folks that work there could be your customers is a very good targeted sales activity. What else what did I miss on here? New product unboxing. Yeah, that's new product unboxing. Facebook Live is good. All right. I don't know. I think the chat is starting to wane. Pizza box toppers, Leap logins, and Leap survey. So give me like a 2.5 stars so I don't have to do this. I'm just kidding. How do you get your people to understand CRM is important? Jonathan, that is a great question. It's on the list, man, because they are not walking in, right? So it is a tool for us to communicate, and it's via text is how folks want to communicate. So and we celebrate sales. So I think when the CRM works, if you burst it, right? If we CRM, all those leads and get response, then and they get rewarded for getting a bunch of sales. Yeah, the retail economy is exactly what it is, Donnie. Then I think they want to do it more. I think when activities work, people don't want to make sales calls if they don't get sales off sales calls. But if they get sales off sales calls, they want to make sales calls. And I think sometimes we need to have the right people call on the right lists. So newer salespeople are not going to call the high value lost customers because they probably have a relationship with other people in the store. They're going to call the 1 AOR customers, or they're going to call the people that are getting their limits raised because they've been with us for 60 days. But Jonathan, I think once it starts working, I think that they think it's more important. I think when they start to get a bunch of sales on it, they think it's more important. I guess that's my answer. All right, a couple more minutes. Anybody, any other questions? Very, very interactive. I appreciate you all for tuning in. And it's 3:43 Eastern time, which means, anybody Eastern, you have a few more hours. Everybody should be able to get about 10 more sales today. So good luck with that. We'll talk to you guys next time. Have a great November.